Ginagamit mo pa ba ang lumang saksakan ng kuryente na walang sapat na espasyo para maisaksak at maaaring ma-overload na magdulot ng mapanganib na sunog o pagsabog? Huwag kang mag-alala. Sa isang smart electrical outlet lamang.
Mga kababayan, ang pagbansang awit ng Pilipinas. Kayang mag-ibig, labas na sinamanan, alam ng puso, sa titik ko'y buhay. Upang dinirang, kuyak ka ng pag-ibig, sa manlulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa kagalang tulong sa simula, sa langit ko pagaw, ay nilagang tula at kawisang pagkayang minamahal, ang isang ng magawag ko'y tagumpay na nag-iigil, ang ituwing at karagyan, kailan ang ay mag-ibigin, luwag ang araw na warang at pasinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang bigaya na pagkay malapit at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Simula noon hanggang ngayon, isa ang naging layong magkaisa ang magbunod, naiingan ay marunong. Tumayo tayo mula sa hamon ng nakaraan, niyakos ang mga hinaumanlang. Pinagako sa puso at paniniwala, ang ihawang para sa kamatayan. Basta moro ay tagumpay, bunga ng pawis, sugo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay ating ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalay magsamoro. Ang samoro, magsamoro, lagi kang mamahalin. Walang pipigil sa damdamin, mga pangako'y tutuparin. Habang buhay kami sa'yo'y magbabantay, mananatili sa puso't isipan. Ang kahapong ngunit ay nanabuwis ng buhay, nasa piling na ng may kapal. Bagsang moro'y tagumpay, bunga ng pawis, sugo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay ating ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalay magsamoro.
Female voice, male voice, lolly voice, monster voice.
Okay, time check natin ngayon ay mahaba-hambang oras na. Okay, 31 minutos po pasado alas 7. And then ang kalendaryo natin, 25 po ng Hunyo 2024. And then ay araw po ng Martes naman ngayon mga suki, no? Okay, medyo na-delay tayo sa programa. Okay, doon kami kagabi. Okay, pati mga anak ko po ko na misita. Okay, itong magsalubong po ito ngayong araw po, no? O nga ang mga kamag-anak namin, okay, pamangkin, okay, mag-Hajj. Okay, so inshallah, mamaya-maya kunti ay darating po mga suki, no? So, welcome. Okay, welcome home ang masasabi ng programa po, no? Okay, sa mga mag-Hajj, lahat na. Okay, lalo po galing sa Basilan. Okay, welcome home. Hajj, ano bang tawag sa Hajj Mabruk? Ayan po mga suki, mga kababayan, na. Okay, welcome. Mabuti sa mahigit 100 po ay namatay sa Hajj na ito. Okay, wala ata Pilipino ay kasali rito. Wala mang report po ang yung mga Sheikh, okay, magdala mag-Hajj po sa Makkah sa taon na ito, no? Okay, sa Saudi Arabia. Okay, sa Makkah tsaka Madina. Okay, welcome home. Okay, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala sa inyo mga suki, no? So, babati ako, magandang umaga. Good morning. Okay, sa umagang ito, okay, dito lang po sa programa Consolidated News natin. Okay, sa platform po ng ADLSN TV News Online. Okay, dito po sa YouTube at ADLSN TV News at ADLSN TV Channel Corp lang mga suki, no? May at lang, ADLSN TV Channel Corp. Okay, small letter lahat yan. Okay, makuha na nyo itong programa natin, no? Sa YouTube. Okay, sa YouTube. Sa YouTube po mga suki. Ayan po mga kasanayan na. Okay, makinig dito sa programa mga suki, no? Okay, mga kababayan natin, anong mga hot issue ngayon? Maya tingnan natin, no? Okay, both local, national, regional, national, at saka lalo na ito sa itong conflict mga suki, no? Global conflict. Dito tayo, okay, nakatutok mga suki, no? Bago tayo magbalita, dito po sa programa Halo-Halo Special, Opinion, Balita at iba pa, kasama po sa Bisyo Publiko, Tinig ng Mamamayan, at sa kaugnayan sa mamamayan. Okay, unahin po natin mga para safe po yung mga travelers, maghanap buhay. Okay, dito po sa lokal, sa national, pati na rin iba yung dagat, no? Okay, pagbantayan natin po ng weather forecast. Okay, galing po sa Pag-asa mga suki, no? Sa DOST pala. Okay, DOST mga suki, no? Ayan, pakinggan natin kung anong latest balita po sa weather update mga suki, no? Ayan. Sige. Ayan.
Isang magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Weather update po tayo ngayong araw ng Tuesday, June 25, 2024. So based po sa ating latest sa satellite image, bahagya pong humina yung epekto nitong southwest monsoon at umiiral na ang easterlies o yung mainit na hangin na nanggagaling sa karagatang Pasipiko. And kung makikita po natin dito sa latest satellite image, although halos buong bansa ay nakakaranas ng maulap na panahon, pero ngayong madaling araw medyo numipis na po yung mga kaulapan at nakaka-apekto na lamang dito sa may areas ng Palawan. And kung makikita po natin, meron din mga kaulapan dito sa may silangang bahagi ng Eastern Visayas. Kaya ngayong araw, asahan pa rin po natin magiging maulan ang panahon dito sa may area ng Palawan, sa malaking bahagi ng Visayas, pati na rin sa eastern portions ng Southern Luzon at northeastern portion ng Mindanao. Samantalang sa nalalabing bahagi naman po ng ating bansa, although may mga tsansa pa rin ng mga biglaang buhos ng ulan or mga isolated rain showers or thunderstorms, asahan pa rin po natin ngayong araw ang mainit at maalinsahang panahon, lalong-lalo na pagdating ng tanghali. Sa ngayon po, wala din tayong binabantayan na low pressure area o bagyo sa loob at labas ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility. Kaya sa mga susunod na araw ay patuloy pa rin iiral itong easterlies at posibleng magdala ng maulan na panahon, lalong-lalo na dito sa may silangang bahagi ng ating bansa. So magiging lagay po ng panahon dito sa Luzon dahil nga sa epekto nitong easterlies, asahan po natin ang maulan na panahon dito sa Bicol Region, pati na rin sa Quezon Province at Romblon. Samantalang sa nalalayong bahagi naman po ng ating kapuluan, mainit na panahon na mararanasan lalong-lalo na pagdating ng tanghali at may mga tsansa pa rin ng mga isolated rain showers or thunderstorms pagdating naman sa hapon o sa gabi. Sa agwat naman po ng temperatura ngayong araw dito sa Lawag, maglalaro mula 25 hanggang 33 degrees Celsius. Mainit na temperatura, mainit na maximum temperatures din ang mararanasan dito sa Tuguegarao na aabot ng 35 degrees Celsius. Para naman sa Baguio, maglalaro mula 18 hanggang 25 degrees Celsius. For Metro Manila, nasa 25 to 33 degrees Celsius. For Tagaytay, nasa 23 to 31 degrees Celsius. At maximum temperatures naman para sa Legazpi ay aabot ng 32 degrees Celsius. Para naman sa magiging lagay ng panahon sa nalalabing bahagi ng ating bansa, dulot para ng epekto ng easterlies, asahan po natin ang maulan na panahon sa Palawan pati na rin sa malaking bahagi ng Kabisayaan at northeastern portion ng Mindanao, partikular dyan sa Caraga. Sa nalalabing bahagi naman po ng Visayas and Mindanao, although mataas po yung chance ng mga isolated na mga pag-ulan, ay magiging mainit pa rin po yung panahon lalong-lalo na pagdating ng tanghali. Sa agwat po ng temperatura para sa Kalayaan Islands at Puerto Princesa, maximum temperature sa abot ng 31 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Celsius maximum temperatures naman naasahan natin sa Iloilo at Cebu, at 25-31 degrees Celsius naman agwat ng temperatura para dito sa Tacloban. For Zamboanga at Cagayan de Oro, yung maximum temperatures po natin aabot ng 32 degrees Celsius at agwat naman po ng temperatura para sa Metro Davao ay maglalaro na 25 hanggang 33 degrees Celsius. So monitoring lamang po tayo ng mga thunderstorm advisory na nilalabas ng ating Pag-asa Regional Services Division sa pamamagitan ng ating mga social media accounts. Sa kalagayan po ng ating karagatan, wala pa rin tayong gale warning na nakataas sa anumang baybayin ng ating bansa. Kaya malaya pa rin mga kapalaot yung ating mga kabayan, lalong-lalo na yung may mga maliit na sakyang pandagat. Ngayong umaga, si Haring Araw ay sisikat ng 5:29 AM at lulubog mamayang 6:28 PM. Para sa karagdagang impormasyon, bisitahin lamang po ang aming social media accounts at ang aming website pag-asa.dost.gov.ph. Yan lamang po latest mula dito sa Pag-asa Weather Forecasting Center. Ako po si Ria Torres. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Okay, maraming po salamat Ria Torres, no? Okay, after mag-break ako ay itong si Secretary General po ng UN, okay, Antonio Guterres, no? Antonio Guterres. Okay, tulong natin sa information po para sa kapayapaan ng mundo, no? Okay, ang problema po, the spread of a hatred and the lies online is causing grave harm to our world. So, ang concern natin, okay, itong mga ganito mga suki, no? Yung global citizen ay magkaroon po ng mga hatred. Okay. So, okay, mag-break muna ako and then itong kasunod. And then so, sa local kapayapaan naman after itong si Antonio Guterres mga suki, no? Okay, tulong natin po. Okay, pag-monitor natin po sa global conflict mga suki, no? Matagal ng trabaho ko. Okay, hindi lang ngayon. Matagal na panahon po ang ginugol ko rito po mga suki. Okay, pagtulong po ganito mga hatred. Okay, spread of hatred and lies online causing grave harm sa ating global community mga suki, no? Okay, so kung di natin maalis ito, okay, sa ating mga puso, wala pong mangyari sa atin, no? Okay, walang mangyari. Ganun ang cycle, no? So, i-break muna natin ang news natin and then parinigin natin ito, no? Okay.
Walang
Okay, pakinggan po natin itong si UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, mga suki, no? Okay, bago lang, mga 5 oras lang po nakaraan sa kanyang statement po, okay, para ma-stop itong mga hatred at saka kasinungalingan online, magkaroon po ng causing grave harm to our world community, mga suki, no? So, pakinggan natin. Parehas tayo makinig po kay UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, no? Antonio Guterres. Okay.
All right, good afternoon. We're delighted to be joined by the Secretary General and by the Undersecretary General for Global Communications, Melissa Fleming. They're here to present the report on global information integrity. The Secretary General makes some opening remarks. He will take a few questions and he will have to leave. Then Melissa will stay back and answer further questions on the report. Sir, please.
Good afternoon, distinguished members of the media. The spread of hatred and lies online is causing grave harm to our world. Disinformation and hate speech are fueling prejudice and violence, exacerbating divisions and conflicts, demonizing minorities, and compromising the integrity of elections. Today, I'm pleased to present a starting point for solutions: the United Nations Global Principles for Information Integrity. These 5 principles: social trust and resilience, independent, free and pluralistic media, healthy incentives, transparency and research, and public empowerment, are based on an overriding vision of a more humane information system. They call for an information environment that champions human rights and a sustainable future, and they provide a solid foundation for sustainable, inclusive development, climate action, democracy, and peace. So, dear members of the media, threats to information integrity are not new, but they are proliferating and expanding with
Okay, na-address sa atin lahat po mga media, no? Okay, hindi lang doon media sa UN. Lahat na ito. Basta belong ka sa media, huwag ka bigay mga disinformation, misinformation, at saka mag-spread ng kasinungalingan, mga suki, no? Okay, huwag tayo gagawa ng ganun. Ayan. Lalo na po pag manipulate ng kasinungalingan, mga suki, no? Huwag natin gagawin. Dahil magkaroon po ng hatred ng tao, kayo rin po mananagot sa ating mga media, no? Okay. Kaya nga, hilingin natin sa lahat po ay yung totoong media lang, totoong report. Wala na mga exaggerated, magkaroon po lang ng kaguluhan po, mga suki, no? So, yan. Okay. Okay. Direkta po in-address sa atin mga media. Okay, itong panawagan po ni Secretary General, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Kaya sinabi ni, okay, naalala ko, sinabi ni itong Maria Ressa, okay, itong communication is a power. Oh, communication is a dangerous. Okay, matagal ako maghawak ng communication na. Okay? Sa tagal ng paghahawak ko ng communication, hindi ako magkaroon po ng para patayan ng tao, para magkaroon ng chaos. Okay. Mahabang panahon po maghawak tayo ng communication, no? Ayan. Magmula ata ako okay, marunong-runong kunti, kaysa communication na po, mga suki, ang linya natin, no? Napaka-dangerous pong communication. Okay, kaya nga ADLSN TV News, online ito ay, okay, magsulong po ng itong tinatawag po state news. Kung ano lang makuha mo sa mga interview mo, okay, sa mga pag-coverage mo, yan lang panghawakan mo balita po, and then pag delikado, i-edit mo pa. Okay, bawasan mo. Ayan, pag delikado, yun po ang minamaster natin mga suki, no? Okay, pag-release ng communication, hindi tayo ay mitya. Okay, para magpatayan ng tao mga suki. At saka, maraming mamamatay ang tao po pamagitan ng communication. Kaya nga, communication is a power, sabi po ni Maria Reza, no? Totoo yun. Napaka-power po ang communication. Ayan. Kaya kung mag-manipulate ng communication, halimbawa magbalita ko ng ganon hindi totoo, okay, magkaroon po ng hatred ng tao, no? Okay. Kaya yun ang iniwasan natin. Hindi natin gawain po yun mga suki, no? Okay. Paghawak po ng communication ng matagal ng panahon na. Ayan. Sige.
And expanding with unprecedented speed on digital platforms and supercharged by AI technologies. Science, facts, human rights, public health, climate action, under attack. And when information integrity is targeted, so is democracy, which depends on a shared, fact-based perception of reality.
Maganda yun, magandang
False
speech.
narratives, distortions, and lies breed cynicism, disbelief, and disengagement. They undermine social cohesion, putting the Sustainable Development Goals further out of reach. Opaque algorithms push people into information bubbles and reinforce prejudices, including racism, misogyny, and discrimination of all kinds.
Okay. Itong news online natin, no? Hindi yan purpose masyado commercial mga suki, mga kaman. Ang purpose ito ay mabalanse po ang communication mga suki, no? Hindi purely ay although commercial kasi corporation, pero hindi po ganun ang purpose natin, no? Okay, kung makapera ay kahit paano ay tirahin mo na ang tao mga suki, no? Hindi ganun ang purpose. Okay. Kung makapera na ng maraming sobre, okay, titira ka na. Hindi po ganun ang prinsipyo po ng itong studio mga suki, no? Okay. Kaya sabi ko, hindi pure commercial para yumaman ako ng husto, hindi po ganun, no? Okay, isa sa mga purpose natin, protection. Okay, sa itong sinasabi ang communication is power. Okay. Pag manira ka sa kapwa mo ay sira talaga. Pamagitan po ng communication. Okay. Sira talaga. Ayan. So, yan. Ipagpatuloy natin makinig po kay UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, no? Ayan.
Women, refugees, migrants, and minorities are common targets. Activists, advocates, researchers, scientists, and leaders are harassed and humiliated. And the damage goes far beyond the digital realm, affecting billions of people who are not connected to the internet. Lives are at stake when lies are spread about vaccines and other medical issues. United Nations' own operations and missions are compromised as our staff deal with a tsunami of falsehoods and absurd conspiracy theory.
Okay, sinong tao hindi matakot po sa media? Tanungin ko kayo. O kayong may mga masamang gawain, okay, sa daigdig nito, yung mga maruruming isip po, okay, na hindi mabuting gawain dito sa daigdig na ito, sino hindi matatakot sa media? Ang tanong ko sa inyo, ayan, takot talaga. Pag meron kang gawain illegal, pilitin mo na ay hindi mo laman po ng mga media. Okay. Pag meron kang illegal na gawain po sa buhay mo, okay, takot na takot ka. Lalo na itong mga mag-graft and corruption po sa kwarta ng bayan, no? Takot na takot. Kaya hate na hate nila ang mga independent media po, mga suki, no? Katulad mga istorya ngayon, sobra, okay, ang graft and corruption po sa pamahalaan ngayon, no? Okay, nagsilabasan po mga istorya-istorya. Okay, okay. Kaya nga ang maisog, hakbang ng maisog ay mag-reforma. Hindi po manggulo, no? Magreforma. Hanggang ngayon magreforma pa rin tayo, mga sukida, na hindi po tuloy-tuloy itong mga malakihan graft and corruption sa pamahalaan, mga sukida. Ayan. So, wala tayo binabanggit, no? Basta ganun lang. Okay, mga communication na release sa atin, okay, mga ganun po, mga suki, ang kalakaran, no? Kalakalan at saka kalakaran. Okay. Issue po ng graft and corruption. Okay, kaya nga, sabi ko, huwag ako mag-join po sa ganitong kalakaran, mga suki. Ay, magtiis ako hanggang kailan po kaya ko magtiis, mga suki. Pero yan ang ayaw ko itong mga graft and corruption, mga suki. Ayan.
So, distinguished members of the media and
Kasama kapayapaan po
the
itong
United
graft and
Nations
corruption,
Global
no?
Principles for Information Integrity are the result of broad consultations with member states, with youth leaders, academia, civil society, the private sector, including tech companies, and you, the media. Those consultations showed that much of the world shares our deep concern and is searching for solutions. And the global principles lay out a clear plan forward, firmly rooted in human rights, including the rights to freedom of expression and opinion. And I urge governments, the tech sector and other stakeholders to listen to your people and your customers and to respond. Some stakeholders carry an outsized responsibility. And for them I have a clear message. We demand action. First, to the big tech companies, take responsibility. Acknowledge the damage your products are inflicting on people and communities.
Okay. Example na lang itong TikTok, mga suki, no? Tama siya, yung technology po, mga suki. Yung TikTok, okay, ay grabe po, mga suki, no? Okay, lahat na po ang katawan ng babae ay pinapakita na po ay sa TikTok, mga suki, no? Yun ay dapat medyo i-censor. Mabuti itong mga Facebook, meron man, pero okay, parang censor, mga suki, no? Okay, lalo na po ay sa malakas ng pressure po ng tao, no? Kasi itong Facebook ay mix ang gumagamit po ng social media ito, no? Okay, mix. Okay, mga Muslim, okay, kung sino-sino po gumamit ng Facebook, mga suki, no? Okay, so medyo restricted ang community policy nila, no? Okay. Okay, pero itong TikTok, grabe. Okay, labas po kaluluwa ng mga babae, mga suki, no? Okay. Pinapakita pa, okay, sa TikTok, okay, yung laman nila. Yung mga tinatago nila. Okay, sa public po ko, mga suki, no? Ito nga, danger din ng technology, mga suki, no? Very danger din. Okay, sa global society. Ayan.
Damage your products are inflicting on people and communities, and you have the power to mitigate harm to people and societies around the world. You have the power to change business models that profit from disinformation and hate. Second, to advertisers and the PR industry. Stop monetizing harmful content. Strengthen information integrity, protect your brand, boost your bottom line. The climate crisis is a cause of particular concern. Coordinated disinformation campaigns are seeking to undermine climate action. Creatives, don't use your talents to greenwash. PR agencies, look for clients who aren't misleading people and destroying our planet. Third, my message to media outlets is raise and reinforce editorial standards. Do your part to safeguard our future by providing quality journalism based on facts and reality.
Okay, gusto ko yung itatouch, no? Quality journalism. Okay, sa atin mga media ito, no? Okay, quality journalism. So, panawagan natin sa lahat, okay, quality journalism, no? Okay, mapa-broadcast, mapapagsulat, okay, ang hiniling natin ay quality journalism, no? Lagi ko kasi tinitingnan ang mukha ko, no? Okay, talagang natatakot na po ako sa mukha ko. Okay, bagsak na po talaga ang kagandahan ng lalaki natin, okay, sa camera mga suki, no? Ayan. Mabuti po itong si UN Secretary General, okay, Antonio Guterres, ay magandang lalaki pa, no? Kahit may edad na. Okay. Iyon po, lagi iniisip ko ay bagsak na po ang mukha natin mga suki, no? Okay, wala na po yung kagandahan ng lalaki natin, wala na. Ayan. Sa edad na po, sa edad na yon. Ayan, ayaw ko naman magparitoke mga suki, no? Bahala na. Okay. Hindi na ako magparitoke.
Find advertisers who are part of the solution, not the problem. And finally, I say to governments, commit to creating and maintaining a free, viable, independent and plural media landscape. Guarantee strong protections for journalists. Ensure regulations uphold human rights. And refrain from drastic measures, including blanket internet shutdowns. Respect the right to freedom of opinion and expression. And let me be very clear. Everyone should be able to express themselves freely without fear of attack. Everyone should be able to access a range
Okay.
of views and information.
Kaya nga, okay, nakuha ko po ang yung kung ano na sa utak po ni Maria Reza tungkol sa itong mga journalists, sa mga broadcast, okay, media broadcast. Ayan po ay nakuha ko ang bakit sinasabi niya ang communication is a power, ang communication is a dangerous. So, nandito na po kay UN Secretary General. Okay, panawagan niya sa mga media, lalo na po mga independent media katulad namin. Okay? Ay independent mga suki, no? Okay. Independent talaga dahil dito lang tayo nanindigan mga suki, no? Ayan. Okay. Hindi tayo bayaran. Okay. Okay, ang programa ito manindigan po hanggang mawala na ko sa daigdig, no? Okay, hanggang mawala na ko sa daigdig dahil sa edad na o kaya kung ano-ano pa, manindigan po dito sa tulog na ito. Okay, mabura man sa daigdig, doon po manindigan itong programa ito, no? Okay, manindigan talaga. 3 beses marinig natin. Ayan. Okay, kung meron principled politician, itong PDP Laban, okay, meron din na principled broadcast media po, itong ADLSN TV News Online Corporation, no? Okay, principled. Okay. Jadi basta-basta po ay tatanggap na lang ng tatanggap mga suki, no? Okay. Sige, Antonio Guterres.
Views and information sources. No one should be at the mercy of an algorithm they don't control, which was not designed to safeguard their interests, and which tracks their behavior to collect personal data and keep them hooked. So, dear members of the media, these principles aim to empower people to demand their rights. They support parents anxious for their children, young people whose future relies on information integrity, civil society and academia. We are pushing for change, and public interest media, striving to convey reliable and accurate information. The UN hears your calls for guidance and support, so don't lose heart, raise your voices, demand accountability, demand choice, demand control. You are the majority, and this is a fight we can win together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First question to Valeria, Rebecca.
Okay. Okay, may medya
Thank you,
kayo.
Secretary General, on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent.
Magaling ito si UN Secretary.
No.
Valeria Rebecca from Ansa Newswire. So my question is,
Magaling talaga.
how do you think you will get countries on board and those principles being implemented and looking specifically towards zones? How often are you to see an implementation of these principles, not only to ensure safety for the press, but also for the public to have access to reliable and timely information? And if I may, on Lebanon, is there any developments, any good developments in terms of, did you have contacts with the parties in trying to de-escalate the situation? Thank you so much.
Answering the second, since my stakeout on Friday, nothing relevant has happened. That
Okay, huwag kayo alis ha, pakinig kayo kay Antonio Guterres.
now, we have a clear message to governments, and that message is based fundamentally on the respect of human rights. And obviously governments have the capacity to regulate, and those regulations must be organized in a way that human rights are respected, that freedom of expression is respected, that freedom of media is respected, that journalists are protected, and at the same time that those platforms that have the capacity to spread information put the integrity of the information first, and not a business model that makes more money when hate speech or misinformation is spread. All the research that was done proves that with most of the present business models, false things, especially if they are scandalous, appeals to intolerance and to hate speech, tend to have a much stronger engagement, and that the algorithms are based on that. So what we ask is the platforms to assume responsibilities in this regard, and we ask governments to be attentive to this and to have the regulations that respect the principles that I mentioned, but at the same time that create the conditions for the business models to be based on a do no harm perspective.
Edie?
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. First, a follow-up on the principles. You said that big tech companies, and especially advertising and PR people, really have control over this in a major way. What is the UN going to do to try and ensure that big tech and advertising and PR companies actually take these principles to heart and do what you said, which is to stop disinformation, hate speech, etc.? And secondly, on Gaza, there's been an escalation of fighting, and also, what is your reaction to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's statement this morning? Israel will not agree to any deal that calls for a permanent ceasefire. Thank you.
First of all, in relation to the first question, all those companies have people working there. They are parents, they are citizens, they are interested in do no harm. And this appeal, we have seen in many areas how the staff of companies has been a very important factor in making sure that companies do the right thing. On the other hand, one of our objectives is to mobilize public opinion. The public opinion to put pressure on companies and put pressure on governments in this regard. But I have to say that the problem is that those companies even lose control with the present systems in place. Because when you have an algorithm, the algorithm works automatically. And you don't even control what the algorithm will produce. So people need to be much more rigorous in the algorithms that are developed. And most of the advertising companies, I must say, I doubt that they have control of their own products in many of the social media platforms. So I think it's in the interest of the advertising industry to know exactly how their products are being used, how do they appear, how is that selected within the way algorithms work and within the way the tech companies work. So, in my opinion, it's fundamental to mobilize everybody, including those that operate in these industries, to accept the principle of do no harm and to adapt their business models to the right thing to do. The second question, our position has been the same since the beginning. We strongly advocate for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire and for an immediate release and unconditional release of all hostages as the basis to create the conditions for one day the two-state solution to be possible.
Thank you.
So that means that
That means that it's a different position than the one that you have expressed.
Desi?
Secretary General, Shudeji with China Central Television. I promise you I only have one question. It's about information integrity. Let me give you an example. If I search UNRWA, if I search UNRWA on Google now, if I search UNRWA on Google now, the second result is a sponsored advertisement called UNRWA Neutrality Compromised. So in this information integrity, how can you ensure that governments, they don't because of maybe their national interests to push for a misinformation or disinformation? Do you have confidence that member states will do that?
I think that member states have a vested interest in not promoting misinformation, because sooner or later the truth is discovered. I'll give you one example of misinformation about myself. I've heard the same source many times saying that I never attacked Hamas, that I never condemned Hamas, that I am a supporter of Hamas. I asked for a statistic to be made by our colleagues. I have condemned Hamas 102 times, 51 of them in formal speeches, the others in different social platforms. So, I mean, the truth, in the end, always wins.
Abdelhamid and Joe.
Abdelhamid Sayan from the Arabic Daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi. Mr. Secretary General, the Palestinian people are being obliterated. The killing machine did not stop for the last 9 months. Over 130,000 Palestinians either killed, maimed, and there's over 20,000 Palestinian children that became orphans. Israel is defying every international agency. 4 Security Council resolution, 2 General Assembly resolutions, ICJ 3 times the provisional measures
Abdelhamid,
were
beg you
denied.
please a question.
What else can the international community do to protect the Palestinians? Would they just keep watching while thousands and thousands of Palestinians being killed, both in Gaza and the West Bank? Thank you.
Well, first of all, the international community must put all pressure in order for international law to be respected, for international humanitarian law to be respected. The number of Palestinians killed in Gaza is unprecedented in any conflict that I have witnessed since I am Secretary General, which means that the protection of civilians has not been a key instrument in the conduction of this operation. And on the other hand, I mean, international law applies, and there are courts that deal with international law, and the decisions of those courts must be respected in all circumstances.
Joe, and then we'll need to let the SG go.
Joseph Klein, Canada Free Press. I want to return to your topic today on the global principles for information integrity. You've talked often, and including today, about the danger of misinformation and hate speech on social media, and appropriately so. But I would like specifically to know how you would apply your message to the tech industry and advertisers to the growing concern that teenagers and children on social media are being sexually solicited, harassed, bullied, body shamed, and addicted. That's something that hasn't received as much of attention, as far as I can tell, in your remarks, but I'm sure you are very concerned about it. So could you comment on it? Thank you.
We mentioned it in my remarks, and it is central in the document that we have published. Indeed, the question of children is probably the most worrying question for me in relation to what we are witnessing in misinformation and disinformation and in addiction. Because one of the problems is addiction to some series of activities related to social media, to platforms, and to other aspects. I strongly encourage the companies involved to adopt very rigorous mechanisms based on the do no harm principle in relation to children, and I strongly encourage governments to be particularly effective in regulation in the
Female voice. lolly voice, monster voice.
Okay. Okay, pagpatuloy po natin si Antonio Guterres, no? Ayan.
Thank you. We have to let the Secretary General go, but Melissa will stay and answer any further questions.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ano pa? Okay, problema ang kuha nila, no?
Please, Volodymyr.
Very much. My name is Volodymyr Chenko, National News Agency of Ukraine, Ukrinform. I also have a question in the context of information integrity. As you know, as you're aware, Russia continues to regularly bomb Kharkiv, a city of millions of people, and other peaceful cities in Ukraine. At the same time, Russian propaganda trumpets that it is Ukraine's fault that Russia continues this war. How do you think it's possible to counter such disinformation and lies?
Look, I can only speak to the document that we're publishing today, and we are urging, if you look at the section on recommendations to member states, we are urging member states, not to engage in disinformation. Now, I think disinformation by member states, by governments, has existed from the beginning of time. It's just what we're focused on is, of course, the UN saying that this is not a responsible way to engage with publics around the world. That said, what we have now is a machinery that allows actors, whether they are governments, whether they are individuals, to distribute their statements, their information, their disinformation at an unprecedented scale, targeted and disguised very often, laundered by different methodologies. I'm not saying that this is specific to the question that you're asking. It's just that our appeal here is that governments do have a responsibility. These are now, standards that the UN is putting forward. I don't think that we've ever made that recommendation as the UN to member states not to engage. But at the same time, what we're really focused on here is the ecosystem that allows this kind of information to travel and penetrate and deceive at such a grand scale.
Evelyn, then Stephanie.
Good to see you, Liz. What do we do or what does the UN do if a state, for example, a major power, elects someone who dabbles in distortions and lies on a daily basis?
Again, it is up to the people of that government to make that decision who they elect. What we are calling for in this document is integrity of information, which is also in the election sector, so that people who are making that decision on who to vote for have, during the election period, not been bombarded with distorted information or manipulated information, but have had access to reliable information about the candidates that they need to choose from. that's one thing. So again, it's this ability to easily manipulate that we're trying to address here, including, you'll see that there's a section on addressing AI actors. There's huge concern, and we've seen it and read the alarming reports and some of the examples of the deployment of AI in creating deep fakes around candidates. It's already been done in many elections so far. And the ease with which, through these tools that are easy to access, quite cheap, and where, again, coming back to the individual, the user, the person online, are now unable to distinguish between, whether that is the actual statement of a politician or it wasn't. And when you, as journalists, uncover incredible things that in your accountability function that have actually been said in the AI environment, it's easier to say, well, I never said that. That was AI. So again, we have calls specifically actors to ensure not make the same mistakes that social media companies did, to ensure safety by design, to make sure AI content is labeled, and to make sure it's not misused. The same with the tech companies. If there is AI content circulating, it needs to be labeled.
Thank you, Stefano.
La voce di New York Top Press. This is a question, but it's also a comment. It happens that yes, but it's every semester I had to give an assignment to students to research what the people out there knows about the United Nations, for example, about SDGs and everything. So one thing we found out in the last 10 years, every semester, people know now. And we are in New York City, we are not in, somewhere, only very small percentage. So, and then, what would be your advice, I asked the students, and they always say the same thing. Say, why the UN is not in TikTok, or is not enough in TikTok, in the socials, why they don't bomb the socials with whatever they do, because they recognize that what the UN does is good. I mean, they end up to like the UN. But they say, why you are not? Why the UN is not bad? So, please, can you answer to those students and tell what it would be the next project for you?
Thank you for that question. And I would say this is the continuous battle that we're facing. Number one, the United Nations is downranked on meta platforms. That means our content has a much lower starting point than any individual. We've asked Meta over and over again to undo this, to design, to tweak the design in their algorithm so that UN content is doesn't have to struggle to be seen in people's feeds. That's one. Second, we do, and you'll see that there is in the document the UN will do section. Part of that is communication strategy. For the last, I don't know how many years, we have been working to be in those spaces where people receive their information. UN accounts actually have 60 million followers. Maybe your students, unfortunately, aren't following them, but we are on TikTok. But we struggle there as well because we don't typically dance to our statements, although maybe I might suggest that Steph does a version after each noon briefing. But it is the struggle to compete in this information environment where there is so much information out there, and where the types of information that we're trying to impart are not what the Secretary General described as the types of content that the algorithm promotes. If it enrages, it engages. And often, cold, sober facts are not going to get elevated. So it's a struggle, but we're stepping up our communications to we had, as you may know, during COVID, we had a communications initiative called Verified, in which we actually studied the narratives around COVID-19. And we also looked at information gaps where people were searching, and we created content at scale over months and months and months that was digitally optimized and distributed it to our country offices and our teams around the world who could put it into different languages and get local media partners. We recruited digital first responders, volunteers who wanted to join forces with us and help us just by taking our content and sharing it within their own communities. And we also had doctors and scientists who were taking WHO messaging and speaking in their native languages via TikTok to their communities.
Okay, paalam tayo kahit na hindi matapos konti na lang.
And it worked.
Okay, kasi pupunta tayo sa airport,
It takes a
no?
lot of effort, and now we're shifting Verified to print. So in those spaces where there is, especially in climate, we have fossil fuel companies who are investing a lot on promoting their product, and we're seeing, just like you saw, when you put in a search engine, for example, climate change, you might see an ad that is, maybe hopefully your students will see it as identified as an ad, but it's placed there by a fossil fuel company. So, it's kind of an information race, but we're doing our best.
Hamid, and I think we'll close it.
Okay, paalam tayo sa umagang ito sa ating programa Consolidated News natin, no? Ayan.
Awesome! Awesome! Awesome!
Okay, tapos na po ang balita natin dito sa Consolidated News natin sa platform po ng ADLSN TV News on Online Corporation at saka ito at ADLSN TV Channel Corp mga suki na. Okay, sa YouTube. So, tapos na ang programa natin, paalis na tayo. Okay, para sunduin po yung mga galing sa Makkah. Okay, sa tsaka Madina, no? Ayan. So, okay, sa programa Halo-Halo Special, Opinion, Balita at iba pa. Kasama po sa Serbisyo Publiko Tinig ng Mamamayan at sa kaugnayan natin sa mamamayan. Okay, wala tayong masamang tinapay. Okay, naka-address sa mga broadcast media at saka mga journalist. Itong si UN Secretary Antonio Guterres, no? Okay. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. So, paki-review na lang. Kung ano po binitawan ni Antonio Guterres sa araw ito. Okay, at least well-informed tayo, no? Bilang taga-pamahayag. Kung ano mang linya ang nakalinya tayo sa pagsulat, okay, sa pag-broadcast, pag-aralan natin itong mga advice, no? Kasi ang communication is a power. Communication is a dangerous para sa lahat mga suki, no? Sinong hindi matatakot po sa news? Okay. Sabi nga kayo, ayan, lalo na po yung maraming tinatago, okay, talagang takot yan mga suki, no? Ayan.
Sa lahat, walang
female voice, male voice, lolly voice, monster voice.
Ayan. So, tapos na po ang balita. And then, paalam na tayo, no? Ayan. Okay, hanggang dito ang balita. Okay, wala tayong masamang tinapay sa atin mga balita. Okay, paalam tayo. This has been Abs, namahan lamang po. Okay, kung kaya po ay mamayang hapon, magbalita pa rin ako, no? Kung hindi kaya, bukas na po ang wasogi. Kasi medyo busy tayo ngayon, no? Kasi magsidatingan po yung mga mag-Hajj. Okay. Soon natin salubong po sa mga mag-Hajj na yan. Okay, ayan. Bye-bye na. Okay.